Hey guys, so this video is about repelling snakes from a specific area in your yard. Now, if you have a very large yard, this may be impractical, but if you're trying to just keep snakes away from a very confined area, this can be a very doable thing. I'm going to give you some different recipes from homemade items that will keep snakes repelled or at bay. And after a rain, you may have to reapply it, but I'm going to also go around my own yard and show you some things that you need to change the habitat for the snakes and things that you must do to make it inhospitable for a snake to take up residence in your yard. So let's first do that by going around the yard, and I'll show you different things that need to be done to keep snakes from not even wanting to come to your yard, especially the toxic ones. So guys, rule number one is keep your grass cut to below 3 inches at all times, because snakes prefer to kind of slither through grasses looking for insects or other prey. So it's a great place for them to have cover from predators, possibly any type of bird that might swoop in and make a meal out of them. So just remember, if your grass is cut lower, that's going to keep the snake populations down naturally, because there's no cover in a short cut lawn at about 2.5 inches. Now, I recently redid a fence area, and this is the old fencing that came down. Some of it might be recycled and reused, and some of it may end up in the burn pile for ashes for non-edible plants. But one thing to remember is you don't want to leave piles of lumber, rocks, any type of material or unused equipment. You want to get rid of it. An old lawnmower sitting behind a shed is a perfect place for a snake to take up residence. So you remember, you want to make it as inhospitable as possible, and no hiding places for any type of predators. So if they feel exposed, the snake will leave on its own, knowing that there's no place for them to start a family and multiply in that area. So recently I built this trash can cover, and it's just a little area where we keep our trash cans. But one thing that's really important to remember is that whatever type of trash can you have, make sure it is lidded and that things like rodents and insects can't easily get access to it, because that is the prey snakes are going to be looking for. So you just want to make sure that you keep lids on outdoor trash cans at all times, because the rodents and insects come in and the snakes will follow right behind them. So that's a great idea, to have lids on all trash cans. Now, snakes are very good at finding cool places to kind of nest and kind of get away from the possible predators that may attack them. And unsealed bottom garage door areas are a prime area for them to get inside your garage. So after this happened once to us, I installed some plastic specifically made for garage doors. So when it comes down, it makes a really tight seal, kind of oval shaped, and then as the garage door compresses, it kind of flattens out. So a little hard to see here, I know, but this is what keeps rodents and snakes from getting into my garage. Now, I know this is a little bit harder to see from a distance, but this is a condensation drain from an AC system, and what I've done is I've dug down around it, put in some gravel on top, and below that some sand, so all the moisture that comes out of this quickly goes into the ground and dissipates, so you don't have a standing wet area. It's a little wet now because we've had just day after day of rain, but this dries out very quickly, and that way it won't attract insects, it won't attract rodents, which ultimately attracts snakes to that area. So just make sure that if you have any type of drains draining outside, like your AC condensation piping, make sure that it drains into an area that drains quickly and doesn't create standing water. So I know this is a little harder to see. We're under the deck, so it's a little darker back in here, but where a lot of the power lines, the lines going out to my heat pump are, they go in right here. And I wanted to make sure I sealed this properly, so I stuffed it first with a lot of steel wool, and then I sprayed expanding foam around it. You can see a little bit here on the outer edge. Also, I put some of the same thing a little bit further around the perimeter of where the dryer comes out, and also I put a special mesh in there to keep any larger rodents from coming in. I can't completely stop this up because I don't want to clog the outflow of air, and it could also catch a lot of the lint that comes out, so we want to make sure that it still has good airflow. I'm about to replace this with a very special type of dryer exhaust there. I should have done this a long time ago, but I'll put a link in the description. It opens and closes automatically once you cut off your clothes dryer, and it prevents any rodents or anything else from crawling into your washer dryer of your home. So take a look down below if you want to see that link and get one for yourself. Pretty easy to install as well. Now, this Rose of Sharon is a perfect example of what you need to do with your shrubs. You need to prune them up about 12 inches off the ground. Any lower limbs that are coming out, anything that's growing under there, you need to clean it out because it provides a perfect place for snakes to hide and populate and repopulate. So just remember, any type of shrubbery, you need to cut it back at the very base up to about 12 inches. Now, we just had a rainstorm come through and this is looking a little bit worse for wear, but the blooms are so heavy on it is just falling over. About 2 weeks ago, this was all standing up perfect. But just remember, when it comes to shrubs around your house, you want to prune them back 12 inches above the ground. Also, another good idea is to prune your shrubs about 24 inches away from the house so it doesn't provide a bridge for a snake, because snakes can climb. They can climb up into a shrub and find their way further up into your house and possibly make it inside through a window. So just remember, shrubbery needs to be well maintained around your home. Now, this is most likely the home of a small mole or vole or possibly tiny little chipmunk or ground squirrel, and they will often make these holes in your lawn. You want to make sure that you keep them out of your yard because they're the perfect food for any type of snake almost, unless they're into eating insects. But just remember, you want to seal these. If there's no fresh soil around it, you know this may be quite old, maybe they've moved on and maybe they're not even using it, but putting a little bit of concrete in it, maybe about half a cup down in there, and add a little bit of moisture, it will seal it and it will become rock hard and no animals can get in or out without digging a new hole around the outer edges. So if there is something living in there, it can still burrow its way out. You just want to make sure that no snake decides to take up residence in these type of holes, because they will do that. Now, this type of mesh is perfect. It comes in a roll. It's perfect for keeping snakes out of your yard because you can plant this in the ground at the base of your fence, long roll, so you don't have to buy small squares like this, but you're going to be planting it or burying it about 6 inches underground right at the base of your fence. Now, at the top of your fence, because snakes can climb, you can bend this out about 30 degrees, and as they try to climb over it, there'll be one climbing kind of at an unusual angle, and they'll sometimes drop back down. But the edges of these types of meshes are kind of sharp, and it's kind of uncomfortable for a snake to climb over. So is it possible they could still get over it? Yes, but it's unlikely with that sharp edge. So make sure if you do use this type of mesh edging, make sure it's kind of unpleasant for them to try to climb over it, so it kind of has a sticky feel to it. Might keep them out of your fenced area already. But just remember, this stuff can be bought in a long roll. If they still sell it online, which I'm not sure, I'll see if I can find it. But something this heavy and this large would be kind of cost prohibitive to have it shipped to you. So you may want to go to your local hardware store and just ask for 1/4 inch stainless steel mesh. Now, I wanted to drop back to something I said earlier about the dryer vent and the expanding foam. The one I used was the very old-fashioned kind. It's been in that same spot for well over a decade. But some of the newer expanding foams are darkers, like blacks and browns. So if you don't want that visibility where you can see the expanding foam, and there's kind of an area where a lot of people could see it, you can use a dark expanding foam where it won't be quite so visible and kind of stand out and not look so great. So also around your doors and windows, you want to make sure you're using the proper sweeps at the base, any type of weather stripping. You just want to make sure there's no opening, because snakes can really squeeze into a very flat area, just a couple of quarters high, US quarters, and they can that would probably be about 2 millimeters, I guess I should say. But anyways, they can squeeze in under doors and windows very easily. So you just want to make sure you go around your house and seal all those possible entry points, because you definitely don't want a poisonous snake finding its way into your garage, your basement, or even in your living area. Now, I'm going to give you several different recipes as far as snake repellents go. And snakes have a very good sense of smell. If you've ever seen a snake sticking out its tongue, it's smelling the environment around it. It's trying to detect predators or prey. And so they do have a very good sense of smell. And there's a lot of debate as to whether a snake can be repelled by strong odors. But if you read the reviews in some of these products, you'll find that there's a lot of people that are very happy with the results. So I'll just say that first. So let's get started with the first recipe. Now, this is super simple. I'm going to give you multiple recipes, but if you happen to have cayenne pepper or cayenne powder, you need a gallon of water. You can use either regular liquid dish soap like Dawn, or even better would be Castile soap. It's a little harder to find, but I'll put links to them below if you don't have a market in your area that sells Castile soap. It's the most natural soap you can buy. What you want to do is you want to put this out and you want to spray it. You can use one of these solo sprayers. You'll just kind of fan spray about a 12-inch wide barrier. Now, this is going to be hard if you have a really large yard, so I'll give you an option for that as well. But you'll spray whatever area you're trying to keep snakes out of it, whether it's a play area for kids or a barbecue area around your back deck area. spraying this concoction will really help. You want to boil the water with a cayenne pepper so it dissolves perfectly in your water, and you can keep it stored for quite a while. Then when you're ready to spray it, put it in your sprayer and add about 1 to 2 tablespoons of whatever type of soap you have handy, and then spray it in a 12-inch wide perimeter around whatever area you want to repel the snakes out of. Now, this next product I found online, I've used it many times for mosquitoes in our seating areas, but the smell of this is so strong. It smells like you're inside of a pizzeria, but it is garlic oil. It's something like 93% garlic oil, citric acid, and I believe there's a third ingredient. It's more in an inert ingredient, but by purchasing some of this mosquito barrier, not only will keep mosquitoes away, but you can create that 12-inch wide band around whatever area you're trying to keep snakes away from, and the smell is incredibly strong. Now, like the last recipe as well as this recipe, this is not waterproof. Once you have a heavy rain come in, you'll need to reapply this to the area. But if you're having an upcoming barbecue or you have a kids play area, you can do it every time you know that they're going to be out there on the weekends maybe playing. You're going to take 1/4 cup of this mosquito barrier. I'll put a link down below if you don't have any in your local stores. And then you're going to put that 1/4 cup in 1 gallon of water. And again, you can use your solo sprayers to go around the perimeter, whatever area you're trying to protect and flush snakes away from. Just do it, like I said, that 12-inch wide band is really critical because it really needs to have a strong smell. After I sprayed this, the following day we went back to the seating area and my wife commented on how incredibly strong the garlic smell was even 24 hours later. So this is a different recipe using the cayenne pepper. You're going to take equal parts of cayenne pepper, garlic powder, and or onion powder. You can use both. And then sulfur, powdered sulfur. Mix all these together, and if you have a handheld pump type duster, that would be great. Make sure you're wearing a mask because this combination that gets into your sinus, you will regret it. So just make sure that you use all safety equipment like glasses and breathing apparatus that will filter out any of that dust that's going to come right into your lungs. Mix all this together, like I said, in equal parts, and put down a 12 to 24-inch barrier around your barbecue grill area where kids are playing, and just make sure it's not where they're going to come in contact with it, but just kind of out in the outer perimeter area. And this dry powder has an incredibly strong smell. As a snake approaches it, they're going to be repelled very quickly from this really, really strong odor. Obviously, again, this is going to have to be reapplied after a heavy rainfall. Light rain, maybe not, but after a heavy rain, I'm thinking you're going to need to reapply it. Now, this next recipe is if you're just needing to treat a very small area, but you take clove and cinnamon oil, 1 tablespoon each of these, mix it with some warm water, and then you can use your solo sprayer just to do a perimeter spray about 12 inches all the way around. I can tell you that this has a very potent smell, but again, after heavy rain, you'll need to reapply it. But these are all great for just a weekend activity if you're afraid of any snakes that might be in that area. But I can tell you that a lot of people say mothballs. Well, technically, you could do that, but it's illegal to use mothballs in an outdoor setting because it's considered an off-label usage. So there's a federal law that says whatever is considered a pesticide, and that is kind of a pesticide because it has some pest-killing properties and chemicals in it. If you use that outside, it could be a problem. Now, if you're putting it in a confined building, under a shed, under a greenhouse, then you're probably going to be okay because it's not out in the open. But I would say, remember that if you have heard about putting that around your home, and it's not cheap, each one of those boxes is a few dollars at least, even at the dollar store. So just remember that if you do that, you want to put that in a confined area up under metal buildings or greenhouses, that if you think you have snakes in that area, that would definitely help. Now, one thing you have to remember is that snakes follow their prey or their food, and if you have a rodent problem anywhere around your home, they're going to be not too far behind if you're seeing rodents. So you want to make sure that you make it very difficult for rodents to live around your home. I've got a kitchen recipe that you can use to get rid of rodents, and I'll put that video right here. Also, some snakes actually eat a lot of insects, so I've got another video that involves baking soda, and I'll put that link right here for getting rid of many, many different types of insects around your home, which would be like a magnet for the snake to come in and start taking up residence and reproducing, and before you know it, you've got an entire family of snakes feeding off of the rodents and insects. Now, we're all guilty of doing this if we have outdoor pets, and never, ever, ever leave pet food outside overnight. First of all, the rodents and roaches and other insects will just be drawn to it very quickly. And again, anywhere you have those, you're going to be drawing in snakes as well. So just make sure that if you do have outdoor pets, you bring their food and secure it inside overnight, because it's just one of those things that one thing leads to another when it comes to snakes. So just an ounce of prevention will keep the snakes away. So I'm going to give you the number one thing I think that draws snakes into your yard. And a lot of people do this. They don't realize that this causes snakes. But before I do, I will put links in the description for all the possible things that you can use. If you don't want to make your own formula, there's a lot of snake repellents out there that have extremely strong sulfur kind of based products. So take a look down there if you don't want to make your own. But the number one thing that people do is they put up bird feeders close to areas where they can watch the birds. Birds are a natural food source for snakes, and if you have a lot of birds coming in, you're going to have a lot of snakes coming in too. I remember we have a screened porch, and all of our cats were just mesmerized on the bird feeder, but there was no birds out there at that moment, and I thought that was really kind of odd. But as I went closer, there was a tree that was reaching our second floor screened deck, and I looked as close as I could, and I saw a snake was hiding in that bush just waiting for a bird to come in so it could devour it. So just remember, if you are feeding birds, make sure the bird feeder is extremely high up and far away from any areas where you have activity such as sitting areas, barbecue grills, or children's play areas. Now there is one exception to my dislike of snakes, and a couple weeks ago our cats again were looking off our second floor screen deck. They were just staring at a little area of ivy we have growing near a back door area, and I kept watching it very closely because I knew they saw something. And the outdoor cats we have just decimated the population of small rodents out there. There's no ground squirrels, no chipmunks, no rodents. They're never out there. And the birds, they stay off of the ground area because they know there's cats out there. But anyways, I looked closer and a snake stuck his head out from that ivy. And I knew right away it was not a toxic or poisonous snake based upon its skin pattern. I'll put a picture in the description of this exact snake, but it is a king snake. And a king snake, my dad told me many years ago when I was probably 4 or 5, king snakes were actually good because they kill and take care of any venomous and poisonous snakes you might have. So they're natural enemies and they control the worst of the worst. In my entire life, I've only seen one rattlesnake in our area, and that was on a hiking trail in the state park. And I can tell you, I am very frightened of rattlesnakes just from their reputation. Now I wanted to give you a look at this predator right here. It is not a real predator, it's just a plastic predator, but this particular owl I bought many years ago, and it had a very unusual feature to it. Occasionally, just at random times during the day, the head will turn and it will give the image of being a live owl. That in itself can scare snakes away, it can scare other birds away, it can scare rodents away. So if they still sell these, I'll look and see. I don't think so. This was kind of an unusual one-off item I bought, so I'm not sure if they even sell them anymore. But plastic owls and things like that, the herons you see, having them around the yard will definitely help with flushing away rodents and small birds, and hence that will keep the snakes away as well. So guys, I understand snakes are part of the ecosystem. They play a role in nature. I understand that, but when it comes to my little piece of nature, I'd rather they just stay out of my yard and maybe they can go somewhere else. But I do have some lightly wooded areas completely all around me. I have a wet weather stream, and so snakes used to be more common than they are now, but some of the measures I've taken have really cut down on their population. I don't mind king snakes and I don't mind the small green snakes, but when it comes to poisonous or toxic snakes, I absolutely don't want those anywhere in the yard, and they could also bite one of our outdoor pets. So guys, I really appreciate you watching. If you have a question about this video or any previous video, I hope you'll become a public subscriber first, because I tend to put those questions and comments to the front of the line that I'm going to respond to. I get anywhere from 100 to 300 comments a day, and it's nearly impossible when I have all this to take care of. So I try to give those people priority and answer your question as honestly and accurately as I can. So guys, I really appreciate you watching. Have a great day.